Telecom investigates vandalism to vital cables. Manam Islanders in dire need of fresh drinking water. And plans underway for new PNGDF naval base.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and thanks for joining me on another working week with Monday's news. Communications company Telecom PNG had its main cable connections sabotaged last Thursday. More than 600 meters of copper cables and fiber optic lines between Ella Beach and Barocco exchanges got burnt after it was set alight. While police are yet to make any arrests, Telecom PNG is working on restoring all services.
Telecom PNG's main cable between the International Gateway and Ella Beach at Koki in the nation's capital was set on fire, affecting more than 800 customers, including Bank of South Pacific, Air Niugini and Ella Motors. Telecom PNG is treating this as a serious criminal matter and calling on people with information to report to police.
Checks revealed that it showed evidence of sabotage rather than a normal accident, because this is usually a very quiet and a safe area. And there wasn't anything around that place that indicated that it was an accidental thing. Matter now we have reported it to police, but police can only be successful in their work if the public cooperates in these cases. We have been working very closely with police in similar incidents in the past. But it still requires the commitment and support of the general public.
350 meters of copper cables and the same amount of fiber optic cables, including dedicated lines, got burnt. This disrupted voice, mobile, internet and data services in NCD since Thursday last week. However, Telecom is adamant all services will be restored by tomorrow.
Been working day and night on it. The fiber services were restored at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning, and some of the copper pairs were restored at 3 a.m. yesterday. So that's the focus that we have on restoring services.
Deliberate damage to telecommunications infrastructure is illegal under the NICTA Act of 2009, and Telecom says whoever has information leading to the successful arrest and prosecution of perpetrators will be rewarded. There are no immediate plans to avoid future damages like this, but the company is urging all to respect infrastructures that provide essential services for the development of the country's economy. Not only did the incident cause the company great loss, but affected the economy because of the companies who depend on telecom services.
It's our strategic cable that links Ella Beach Exchange, which connects to the Sydney cable that comes in and the rest of the country. So in terms of its impact on our business, it's a lot. But you look at the impact on the economy as well, because businesses depend on what we provide for their business.
A similar attack on Telecom's cables in Port Moresby happened a year ago in Waigani. Michelle Amba, National EMTV News.
The volcano-affected Manam Islanders of Madang province are currently in dire need of fresh water to drink and cook. With ashes from the minor eruption 2 months ago and the drought being experienced in the province, their call for water is urgent.
With the drought in the 4th month, their water wells for drinking and cooking are drying up fast.
We plan to save drinking water. Kita waran mi pleksim mosim lo side lo sol wara tasong. Na sampla time high wara mi plan up kisim because mi pleksim lo arena na misi. Na dry wara time by wara by stablo pleksim kisim na yusim. So some more save too much drink. Little salty stuff too.
In terms of relief supplies, the provincial government has made only 2 shipments so far, with rice in the first and flour and oil in the second shipment.
Ration, you work low come, low first shipment come, now second one, but all without protein.
In terms of business houses, the RD Tuna Cannery has donated 1,000 cartons of tin fish, to which 300 has already been delivered, with 700 more to go.
1,000 cases of tin fish, 100 boxes of biscuits, and 25 bales of rice, and 10 cartons of noodles.
The Provincial Disaster Coordinator, Rudolf Mungali, thanked the company for responding to the request from his office for relief help.
This is in response to the appeal that we made to the company to assist us in this Manam resettlement, and basically for the Manam Iraqi people on the island.
The RD Cannery is the second group outside the government to provide relief to the islanders, with the first being the Bodbod people of Bogia, who donated 1,000 bags of sago. Meanwhile, the volcano on the island is still spewing ashes. Rachel Shise, National EMTV News, Madang.
Well, excitement is building for people in the Yanguru South Sea electorate in East Sepik, as many have seen government services for the first time. Areas where roads, electricity, water supply, health and education services did not exist in the past are now seeing these services for the first time. The people say it's the beginning of a new era. In this special report, EMTV's Quinton Alon tells us why the Yanguru South Sea people believe leadership is the key to development.
Sylvester Yogori from Waramuru village on the top of Mount Turu has been living a basic subsistence life since childhood. No road network into his mountain village, and that means life is without basic government services. Over the last 39 years, students were forced to leave their parents to reside with extended families to attend school. Immunization programs for mothers and babies have been inconsistent. A similar situation is also being experienced by the people in the Sepik Plains. At Koro, the local councillor, Reni Bira, says government workers have left because of poor road and health services.
Since the 90s, Kamada no kind seni come up. Now 2012, na Kamada 2015, me look him light, na mi hammas.
Successive governments have done little to maintain infrastructures in the district, but these vulnerable people have started to see changes in the delivery of government services in the district. For Sylvester and his mountain people, a new road is running through the village for the first time, linking the main Sepik highway. For the plain communities, new roads have opened access for school and health infrastructures.
Hardly any schools existed across the Sepik Plains from Urimo, with borders with Wewak, and from there to here, that's the eastern end, and this is the western last village where the project zone ends. That's roughly about 200 kilometers.
On Independence Day last week, many have no regret celebrating because they believe it's the beginning of a new era. While others outside of Yanguru have hesitations, for them they believe the next 40 years will never be the same. Local MP Richard Maru says it all depends on leadership and education.
We have to make a move, and it must, and it will, and it's already starting with Yanguru Social District.
Road network in the district is among the top priorities, followed by education, health and small to medium enterprises. Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
Well, still to come on National EMTV News tonight, the relocation of Langkry Naval Base and late independence celebrations at Buimo Jail. I'll be back after this break. Stay tuned. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. Plans are underway to establish a new naval base for the Papua New Guinea Defence Force. The initial step was taken today with the signing of a memorandum of agreement between Kumul Consolidated Holdings and the Papua New Guinea Defence Force. Kumul Consolidated Holdings will facilitate all necessary processes for the relocation of the HMPNGS Basilisk Naval Base here in Port Moresby.
The signing of the Memorandum of Agreement will pave way for a new naval base. Under the agreement, Kumul Consolidated Holdings will take charge to facilitate all necessary requirements to establish the base. This will see the relocation of the old naval base PNG's Basilisk to the new proposed site at Motukea. IPBC Managing Director Gary Hesse says Kramer Osenko has been tasked to devise a master plan for the new naval base.
It's an essential part of the redevelopment of the waterfront in Port Moresby along Stanley Esplanade to Champion Parade, and it's part of a project that we will be working on as a showcase to the rest of the world. The relocation of the PNG Defence Force to another site will allow the consolidation of several Defence Force sites and provide a central berthing, refuelling, housing and administration complex away from the city.
The actual cost of the relocation will only be known after the feasibility study is done, but it is estimated to run into the millions. PNGDF Commander Brigadier General Gilbert Toropo is keen to see the project get off the ground and commended Kumul Consolidated Holdings for taking the lead.
In chattering the future of the PNG Defence Force in its focusing on the development and the restructuring of the PNG Defence Organisation. And relocation of Basilisk base play that significant role in posturing and shaping the PNG Defence Force to properly support the government of PNG and its people in maintaining its core obligations.
Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
There is an urgent need to have strong policies in place to address the wide problem of youth unemployment in the country. Norit Liuol, Director General of the National Youth Development Authority, stressed the need for a major policy framework to counter this growing problem. He made these comments in an interview with MTV News at the Entrepreneurial Youth Summit today.
Mr. Luyo gave a presentation on the National Youth Employment Framework. He said it is a policy document that has been developed after extensive consultation with stakeholders and following research on the youth employment situation in the country. He said the framework is in draft stages and will be launched next month.
We need to develop some strong, coherent, integrated, sustainable policy programs in this country that must be adequately funded, implemented and funded by the government.
The policy document stands on 7 pillars, including employment creation, soft loan schemes, education and training, youth data and information, and collaborating of efforts by all stakeholders, amongst others. Mr. Luyo said the Entrepreneurship Summit is one of the pillars of the policy document and emphasized that youth entrepreneurship is a viable approach in addressing the youth unemployment situation. CEO of NDB Investments Des Yaninen shared similar sentiments, adding that a series of recommendations will be presented to government and other stakeholders about how to remove obstacles that young people face in trying to get into business.
One of the problems we have here in Papua New Guinea is that we define success as having a good job. In order for you to have a good job, you need to have a good education, and that means you need to go to school. Year on year, we're going to have thousands, tens of thousands of young people coming out unengaged, and therefore we want to present small business as an opportunity to them. If they can't get into uni or if they can't do other things, and hey, if you want to succeed in life, then business is one of the real alternatives that you have.
He said the National Development Bank has come up with PNG's first youth and business scheme and is looking to pay out over 2 million kina in assistance to young entrepreneurs between the ages of 18 and 30 in the next few days.
Young people are the future of Papua New Guinea, and if we are to build up this nation, we have to start by building up the young people. We cannot afford to neglect them any longer. So it's really good that we have the level of support that we're having now, and hopefully going forward we can see a lot more empowerment in the youth sector. Thank you.
Deli Waigeno, National EMTV News.
Treasury Minister and Aitape Lumi MP Patrick Pruach has challenged his people in Aitape to take ownership of government-funded projects to receive the full benefits of development. Mr. Pruitt said with the country turning 40 years old, Papua New Guineans must realize they cannot depend on government to provide for everything and must build on what the government is delivering.
The Treasury Minister was in his district last Wednesday to celebrate the country's 40th independence. He was up front to the hundreds gathered at Aitape town with what he said.
To take too late. Time of leader drive past or people son up the road na tasim nek. Pasim lo yumi Aitape, pasim lo yumi Papua New Guinea. Tasim nek.
While the minister has plans to complete the Sepik Highway from Wewak to Vanimo by 2017, he said people must not be lazy in waiting for the government to deliver more services. He said once the highway is complete, it must be maintained through economic activities and other projects like agriculture and small to medium enterprises. The minister believes this will make people take ownership of government-funded projects.
This is our contribution to our country. Work play yumi. We blame us panim fish na salim. Yumi mas. Katim diwai planim kakao, kisim kakao go to market. Hem contribution bla yumi la wokim la country bla yumi.
In Aitape, he commissioned 2 new ambulances for the Raihu District Hospital. There, he also challenged the hospital management and staff not to misuse the vehicles as past vehicles were constantly misused.
So challenge bla me when local people bla me and all them. Next 40 years. Let's do the simple things right.
The minister said the country is 40 years old and the government is trying not to use more public funds on things that can be maintained by the people.
It is becoming a daily occurrence in all the districts in our country. Government wage bill maintenance cost is so high that it is unbearable now for us to divert resources into economic opportunities.
Naval Choi, National EMTV News.
Well, inmates at Lays Buimor Jail had a late independence celebration this week. The jail camp was cheerful following this year's 40th independence celebrations. CS officers were also part of the day's event. A gospel music concert was held, followed by a string of other fun activities. Lay MP Lojai Koza, when speaking at the event, said youth empowerment in Lay continues to be the district's aim of enhancing youth in society. Though small, the celebration has attracted musical presentations from both the male and female inmates present during the event. This is one of the many national events that inmates continue to observe despite being behind bars. And now let's check out the finance news. The Kina closed 10 points lower at $0.3510 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, our Kina was trading at $0.3445 US, $0.4753 Australian dollars, $0.3015 euro and 40.97 Japanese yen. Taking a look at commodity prices at New York close, gold closed the day lower while copra, coffee and cocoa closed the day higher. Palm oil, crude oil and copper all closed the day lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed 290 points lower, the ASX closed at 23 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 24 points higher as well. We'll bring you stories making headlines overseas when we come back, including a Barack Obama lookalike in China. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, opinion polls reveal that 69% of New Zealanders do not want to change the nation's flag design after seeing the final 4 options of new designs. The final 4 options were put forward by New Zealand's flag consideration panel at the start of the month. The public is to vote on a final choice in November. New Zealand Prime Minister John Key dismissed the poll results, saying seeking out a new flag design through the public is always a tough ask. Prime Minister Key urged those supporting the flag change not to give up yet and described the poll as inaccurate. He said it was too simple of a yes or no question to only 1,000 people out of New Zealand's total population of around 4 million. 10,292 designs were put to New Zealand's flag consideration, who narrowed the designs down to 4 selections. Pope Francis has met briefly with former Cuban President Fidel Castro and members of his family, including current President Raul Castro. He also delivered a message of hope and love to the Cuban people. But before he was Pope Francis, he was also Father Mario Bergoglio, and not too long ago, the man who would become Pope, looking out for the migrants, was himself marginalized.
So how did this man who was exiled not only become Pope, but become a rock star Pope?
As His Holiness Pope Francis has said, diplomacy is the work of small steps.
I want to thank and recognize the support of the Vatican, and especially Pope Francis, for the improvement of relationships between Cuba and the United States.
I love this guy.
Hola.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Javier and Sebastian are local journalists in Cordoba.
Okay. Smells good.
Who fed me well and gave me their perspective on how the city changed the man.
Por eso es que él dice que fue su tiempo de purificación interior, porque lo vivió muy interiormente. Tenía muy poco contacto con el exterior.
You can hear the sadness in the Pope's own words. Ricardo Spinazzi was one of the Pope's closest friends. He read me a poem that Francis wrote about being lost on a dark night with only the stars to keep him company.
No sé dónde poner pie. Noche a la intemperie.
Ricardo told me that if I really wanted to know what happened during the Pope's dark nights, I should talk to his spiritual son, Father Angel Rossi.
How long have you been here?
18 years here.
El Papa drinking a mate? That's a big mate. He looks happy.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Come with.
Yes.
He took me to the chapel where the Pope prayed alone every morning. Rossi said that the Pope suffered terribly during his exile, and friends were actually worried about his mental health.
De mi padre, él estuvo presente y uno se acercó, no un sacerdote, sino alguien que nos conoce los jesuitas, y dijo, qué lástima este hombre que prometía tanto y ahora está enfermito, mal. Aquí vivió el Papa Francisco de junio 1909.
Wow.
Father Rossi showed me the actual room where Francis lived.
You would pray and write and read in here?
Sí, yes.
Very simple, very humble.
In the end, it's not exactly clear what happened to Pope Francis during his exile in Cordoba. But he says that he came back more merciful and kinder. So it seems like whatever happened here clearly had a lasting impact on Pope Francis.
A son and brother of two Japanese nationals kidnapped by North Korean agents in the late 70s left for a UN discussion panel yesterday seeking international support. Koichiro Izuka, whose mother was abducted when he was only a year old, is appealing for her immediate rescue. He plans to appeal to the international community to exert pressure on North Korea. North Korea kidnapped 17 Japanese nationals between the years of 1977 and 1983, although possibly many more are unverified by the Japanese government. Beginning today, the UN discussion panel will investigate North Korean human rights abuses, with a North Korean diplomat set to attend. The panel will involve the families of other kidnapped victims from other countries, including South Korea. Well, 6 hostages are now free after months of captivity in Yemen. They arrived in Oman after successful negotiations with rebels. 2 of the captives are Americans.
This flight by the Yemeni government from Sana'a, Yemen to their capital, Muscat, ending a months-long ordeal for 2 Americans here. Scott Darden, but also a man known as Sam Farron. Now, Mr. Darden was there working for a logistics company. Little else is known about Mr. Farron, what brought him to be in Yemen, but the fate of a 3rd American unclear at this stage. He was not on that plane, and there was much confusion, frankly, during this day about whether or not there were 3 Americans on board. One diplomat in Sana'a speaking to me, another Yemeni officials believed that was the case. It clearly wasn't. On that plane, though, as well, as many as 3 Saudi nationals, that's according to Oman State Television, and a UK official confirming to me that there was a Briton travelling on that plane as well from Sana'a to Muscat, and when he landed, he received consular assistance from the British Embassy there. So clearly, this tense set of negotiations, the Omani officials apparently involved as well as Americans, have brought these 2 individuals plus others to safety. We understand that perhaps a Houthi delegation were on board that plane travelling to Oman as well. They, according to the diplomat I spoke to, may be in Oman to try and start up again peace talks. Now, the Houthis have been in a months-long brutal civil war now against a Saudi-led coalition that are backing the former Yemeni government in Yemen. The Houthis, frankly, have been losing a lot of ground. They're now, many say, encircled and heavily bombarded in the capital, Sana'a, and the UN are trying to broker a peace process. The diplomat I spoke to said that this hostage release, captive release, call it what you will, perhaps a goodwill gesture to get these peace talks started again. That may happen in Oman in the days ahead, or it may not. The diplomat I spoke to, very pessimistic, frankly, feeling that the Saudi coalition believes it has the military upper hand and may pursue a more military option rather than letting peace talks go through. But civilians losing their lives frequently in Yemen, 2,000 so far, a total of nearly 5,000 having died in this conflict. But today, for 2 American families at least, some good news, their loved ones now in safety.
On a much more lighter note, the leaders of the US and China are set to meet on Friday in Washington for a much anticipated meeting bound to make headlines. While in China's Guangzhou city, actor Zhao Zhiguo is hoping to hit the silver screen as a gangster who looks like the US President Barack Obama. Zhao doesn't need much makeup to look like the American president, and the similarities are not just skin deep. Zhao says his birthday is only 1 day apart from Obama's, and they also share the same blood type, which some people believe shapes one's personality. When asked how he would host the Chinese president if he were Obama, Zhao said he would announce they are close, like brothers.
If I were really Obama, I would definitely throw a huge banquet. I would ask all the media to come, and I'd say in front of them, we are friends with China. Xi Jinping and I are brothers.
The 29-year-old from a humble background did various jobs, including working in a factory and as a security guard for almost a decade before becoming an entertainer. He competed in a popular TV talent show in 2012 and has since played parts in online miniseries and short films. Zhao has also made appearances at events as an Obama impersonator, giving speeches, even though his English is minimal.
My English is bad, so when I go on stage to speak, I speak in a mix of real English and fake English. I make it up as I go. Nobody understands it. Let me show you.
Hello everybody! Ladies and gentlemen, it's very much a catch by the world.
Now he's been cast to play a minor role in a detective comedy called Huo Bao, which translates into Funny Fellows in English. His character is Black Prince Charming, who punches the main character in a fight scene.
My character is not the real Obama, but a low-level gangster. So when my boss tells me to beat people up, I'd do it.
The film crew, a mix of Koreans, mainland Chinese and Hong Kong staff, just call him Obama on the set, and he's often asked to pose for photos with them.
All he has to do is just stand there, and his looks will already leave a deep impression on the audience. In this movie, he acts as one of the low-level gangsters, but his character strongly stands out because of his looks. Also, this is a comedy. Everybody knows in America, Obama is a boss and enjoys all the glory that comes with it. But in this movie, he's not doing so well.
The movie, with a budget of 50 million yuan, about $8 million US, is scheduled for release next summer. Well, True Guy Sports is coming up next. We'll have news on Intrust Super Cup, NRL and Snooker. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome to True Kai Sports. The SP PNG Hunters ended their 2015 Intrust Super Cup campaign after being defeated by the Ipswich Jets 28 points to 12 yesterday afternoon. The Hunters drew first blood, but the Jets regrouped and came back strong, denying any opportunity for the Hunters to stay in the contest. The second half saw the Jets eventually walk off the field victorious. Jets will now face Townsville Blackhawks in the grand final. The Sydney Roosters and North Queensland Cowboys have booked spots in a grand final qualifier after winning their matches at the weekend. The Roosters will face the Brisbane Broncos and the Cowboys will play off against the Melbourne Storm for a spot in the 2015 NRL Grand Finale.
Following their defeat to the Storm, the Roosters were looking to bounce back when they faced the Bulldogs. In a very tough encounter, both teams were neck to neck in the first half, going into the break 8 points to 4 with the Roosters in front.
And it was Clement that forced the ball loose.
The second half started with both sides still evenly matched, but in the 51st minute, a controversial try to the Roosters through Kane Evans gave the men from Sydney the momentum they needed to cruise to victory, winning 38 points to 12.
Oh, Kenny Dowland's got a treble!
The Cowboys went into their match against the Sharks determined to keep their NRL hopes alive. The North Queenslanders took control of the match early on, dominating possession of the football and converting it into points. The Sharks had no reply as the Cowboys went on a scoring frenzy to see them book a spot in the grand final qualifier against the Melbourne Storm, while the Roosters will battle the Brisbane Broncos to book a spot to play in the 2015 NRL Premiership Grand Final.
What a game of football that will be. The attack of North Queensland against the defence of the Melbourne Storm.
Dion Combang, National, EMTV Sports.
And in snooker, Dujon Fong has retained the men's snooker titles for the 8th consecutive year in Port Moresby. In a nail-biting encounter, Dujon Fong beat Marcus Ning 5 frames to 4 in the best of 9 to retain the title. Both Dujon and Marcus have become the highest-ranked snooker players in the country.
It became a family affair in his run towards the finals as Dujon met his uncle Peter and cousin Nathan in the respective semi-final games, beating them both 4 frames to 1 before advancing on to the grand final. Despite a shaky start, Marcus Ning beat semi-finalist Denny Wanma to meet Fong in a rematch of last year's grand final. The title seemed to belong to either finalist from the get-go. Ning took out the first frame 68 points to 55 before Fong came back to take the second frame 58 points to 38. By the 8th frame, Ning looked to take out the title in front of an anticipated crowd. However, Fong equalized 56 points to 24. Minor errors on the table by Ning saw Fong capitalize and hold on to the title for the 8th consecutive year. In the plate playoff, Danny Earls beat Lasek Joseph 2 frames to 1. While in other awards, Alatau's Chris Sonway was awarded the Best Outstation Player and Derek Bray from Port Moresby was awarded the Most Outstanding Player of the tournament. Scholar Sengi, National, EMTV Sports.
Well, True Kai Sports continues with Besta Cup Grand Final, weightlifting and boxing. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports.
Good to have you back with True Kai Sports. Turning to soccer, Kaupa 3 are the newly crowned champions of the Besta Cup, beating their fellow association team Kaupa 2 by 2 goals to 1 in the grand final. In the women's grand final, a tough tussle between twin favourites, Public Servants Soccer Association and Port Moresby Soccer Association, with the full-time score 1-0 in favour of Port Moresby.
It was a derby-based feel to it as both Port Moresby-based associations, NCD Public Servants and PMSA, fought it out for top honours, with the co-host PMSA securing a sweet 1-0 victory.
Capable of playing good soccer. I think we qualify now for the I think the Besta Championship in Leh, I guess. The girls will be looking forward to that. I want to say thank you to PSSA for giving us a good giving us a good challenge. They were a better side, but unfortunately I think experience spoke for PMSA.
And in the men's grand final match, it was a tussle between two village-based teams from the same association, Kaupa team number 2 versus Kaupa team number 3. And both teams had secured sweet victories over PMSA and in-city public servants in the semifinals respectively. While both teams had already secured qualification to the national championships, there was still a lot to play for. The first opportunity falling to Kaupa 2 in yellow, with simple passes exposing their opposition's defense. And men in blue also had a chance. The first real opportunity falling in the 12th minute to Kaupa 2, only to be denied by a brilliant save. And only a moment later, Kaupa 3 took the lead. And they kept up that momentum, while Kaupa 2 tried again, twice. And a moment of hilarity granted Kaupa 3 a chance to double the lead, which they failed to use. Half-time, and it was 1-0 in favor of Kaupa 3. The second half would fly by in an instant, and Kaupa 3 were predominantly on top, but the equalizer would come late in the half. Both teams fighting hard, but the winning goal was elusive. That was until the 84th minute, Kaupa 3 snatching the opportunity and taking it. Jeremy Moggy, National EMTV Sports.
And the finals result will now see both Kaupa teams facing defending Besta Cup champions Manus and Kavieng and Lay Football Association and Momasa champions Situm. Well, two weightlifting clubs in the Hanuabada community in Port Moresby have finally come together. National head coach Dick Atoa spoke on behalf of athletes of both clubs, appealing to the interim administration members to step down and for the election of new executives from the Weightlifting Federation.
In a news conference, weightlifter and national head coach Dick Atoa expressed athletes' concern to the Weightlifting Federation. She called on the current interim administration to step down.
The current administration has been ongoing for 5 consecutive years now, and we have not had any AGMs since they took over as the interim committee. So that's the only option that we can come up with, is for them to step down, or there won't be any weightlifting in Papua New Guinea.
She says both Hanuabada and Lower Dick Atoa weightlifting clubs have been producing the best weightlifters in Hanuabada.
As a national coach who has been appointed as a national coach, what I am disappointed is in that in every team selection, PNG team selection that they do, I don't have a say in any of the selections that they do. So yeah, we've had enough. Yeah.
Also present was Coach Douglas Mayer, who voiced his concern that the AGM National Championship has deferred to next year.
The AGM and the National Championship was for August this year. And now we've moved into September, and we are hearing news that the National Championship and the AGM has been deferred to next year during the PNG Games. And that's not fair on the athletes and the officials who are not aware of these things.
He also said that there won't be any time next year because there will be other important events coming up. Rafaela Kaure, National EMTV Sports.
The people of Kairaku in the Central Province held a boxing tournament last week featuring boxers from various associations fighting in the tournament. Many of PNG's elite boxers have come out from that area and many have represented the country. MTV's Elijah Levitt reports.
Goes on the front foot, she's a southpaw.
Philo and Louis MacGyver, Jonathan and Charlie Keama
and Andrew Asaiga have been an inspiration to the boxers in the area. Andrew MacGyver, president for Kairoku Boxing, said the elite boxers have provided guidance to other local fighters.
Of course, there was an inspiration from the upcoming boxers, and we have already promoted and developed boxing in our areas, and now we are looking forward to produce more champions from Papua New Guinea. Will come from our association.
PNG national coach Joe Alpha was also present at the tournament, conducting workshops and taking the boxers for some training.
Down and see, I was running a 2 days workshop here before the boxing starts, just to boxing basic coaching course here in Veva village, which is to see the coaches, how they advance, and we are all following the IBA, and I want the coaches to advance and to lift the standard up, and also lift the technical officials also, as well as to train the new skills.
Joe Alpha also said there is potential in the area, and with proper training, PNG could expect more elite boxers from the Kairoku-Mekio district.
A lot, but then it's a lack of the coaching. The coaches a lack of bringing up the skills. As you can see now today, only 3 bouts. I see a level of the boxers is a bit going down just because of they have their own politics around here, and the Gaba and Maba, they have their own politics. But I think it's not that. It's the administration problem. They have to go back and talk about themselves.
Elijah Levet, National MTV Sports.
Well, True Guy Sports wraps up on that note. Coming up next, the weather details for tonight. Stay with us.
True Guy Sports. True Guy Sports.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region, the nation's capital, Kerema and Popondetta, mostly dry. In Momase, cloudy weather expected in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands, mostly fine expected in all centres. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres mostly dry. As always, before we go, quickly recapping our main headlines again tonight. Telecom investigates vandalism to vital cables. Also, Manam Islanders in dire need of fresh drinking water, and plans underway for new PNGDF naval base. Well, that does it for the bulletin this Monday. On behalf of the news crew, I'm Tokana Hasavi Jr. Thanks for your company. You take care and stay happy. Good night.